controversy, were extremely unpopular in the West and were condemned by Pope Gregory III. 122. The Roman Empire was not the only Christian nation affected by the Islamic conquests. The Visigothic kingdom finally fell to the Umayyad Caliphate in the 720s. 123, 124. The kingdom of Asturias was founded by Pelagius of Asturias around the same time and was the first Christian realm to be established in Iberia following the defeat of the Visigoths. 125. Asturias would be transformed into the Kingdom of Leon in 924, 126, which would develop into the predecessors of modern-day Spain. 127. The religious disagreements between Rome and Constantinople eventually led to the breakdown in imperial rule over Rome itself, and the gradual transition of the Egarchate of Ravenna into the independent papal states, led by the Pope. In an attempt to gain support against the Lombards, the Pope called for aid from the Frankish kingdom instead of the Eastern Empire, eventually crowning the Frankish king Charlemagne as Roman Emperor in 800 AD. Though this coronation was strongly opposed by the Eastern Empire, there was little they could do as their influence in Western Europe decreased. After a series of small wars in the 810s, Emperor Michael I recognized Charlemagne as an emperor. He refused to recognize him as a Roman emperor, a title which Michael reserved for himself and his successors, instead recognizing him as the slightly less prestigious emperor of the Franks. 128. Imperial rule continued in Sicily throughout the 8th century, with the island slowly being overrun by the Arabs during the course of the 9th century. In Italy, a few strongholds in Calabria provided a base for a later, modest imperial expansion, which reached its peak in the early 11th century, with most of southern Italy under Roman rule of a sort. This, however, was undone by further civil wars in the empire and the slow conquest of the region by the empire's former mercenaries, the Normans, who finally put an end to imperial rule in Western Europe in 1071 with the conquest of Bari. 129. The last emperor to attempt reconquests in the West was Manuel I Comnenus, who invaded southern Italy during a war with the Norman kingdom of Sicily in the 1150s. The city of Bari willingly opened its gates to the emperor, and after successes in taking other cities in the region, 130, Manuel dreamed of a restored Roman Empire and union between the churches of Rome and Constantinople, separated since the schism of 1054. Despite initial successes and papal support, the campaign was unsuccessful and Manuel was forced to return. 131. Legacy. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled, the new Germanic rulers who conquered its constituent provinces maintained most Roman laws and traditions. Many of the invading Germanic tribes were already Christianized, although most were followers of Arianism. They quickly changed their adherence to the state Church of the Roman Empire. This helped cement the loyalty of the local Roman populations, as well as the support of the powerful Bishop of Rome. Although they initially continued to recognize indigenous tribal laws, they were more influenced by Roman law and gradually incorporated it. 93. Roman law, particularly the Corpus Juris Civilis collected on the orders of Justinian I, is the basis of modern civil law. In contrast, common law is based on Germanic Anglo-Saxon law. Civil law is by far the most widespread system of law in the world, in force in some form in about 150 countries. 132. Latin as a language did not disappear. Vulgar Latin combined with neighboring Germanic and Celtic languages, giving rise to modern Romance languages such as Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, and a large number of minor languages and dialects. Today, more than 900 million people are native speakers of Romance languages worldwide. In addition, Many Romance languages are used as lingua francas by non-native speakers. 133. On the left, Emperor Honorius on the consular diptych of Anicius Petronius Probus, 406. On the right, consular diptych of Constantius III, a co-emperor with Honorius in 421, produced for his consulate in 413 or 417. Romance languages, languages that developed from Latin following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, are spoken in Western Europe to this day, with the exception of Romanian, which developed from the Latin spoken in the eastern provinces and the early Eastern Empire. Their extent in Western Europe almost reflects the continental borders of the Old Empire. Latin also influenced Germanic languages such as English and German. 134. It survives in a purer form as the language of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Mass was spoken exclusively in Latin until 1969. As such, it was also used as a lingua franca by ecclesiasticals. It remained the language of medicine, law, and diplomacy. Most treaties were written in Latin, as well as of intellectuals and scholarship, well into the 18th century. Since then, the use of Latin has declined with the growth of other lingua francas, especially English and French. 135. The Latin alphabet was expanded due to the split of I into I and J, and of the into U, V and, in places, especially Germanic languages and Polish, W. It is most widely used alphabetic writing system in the world today. Roman numerals continue to be used in some fields and situations, though they have largely been replaced by Arabic numerals. 136. A very visible legacy of the Western Roman Empire is the Catholic Church. Church institutions slowly began to replace Roman ones in the West, even helping to negotiate the safety of Rome during the late 5th century. 73. As Rome was invaded by Germanic tribes, many assimilated, and by the middle of the medieval period, c. 9th and 10th centuries, the central, western, and northern parts of Europe had been largely converted to Roman Catholicism and acknowledged the Pope as the Vicar of Christ. The first of the barbarian kings to convert to the Church of Rome was Clovis I of the Franks. Other kingdoms, such as the Visigoths, later followed suit to garner favor with the papacy. 137. When Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne as Roman Emperor in 800, he both severed ties with the outraged Eastern Empire and established the precedent that no man in Western Europe would be emperor without a papal coronation. 138. Although the power the Pope wielded changed significantly throughout the subsequent periods, the office itself has remained as the head of the Catholic Church and the head of state of the Vatican City. The Pope has consistently held the title of Pontifex Maximus since before the fall of the Western Roman Empire and retains it to this day. This title formerly used by the high priest of the Roman polytheistic religion, one of whom was Julius Caesar. 47. 139. The Roman Senate survived the initial collapse of the Western Roman Empire. Its authority increased under the rule of Odoacer and later the Ostrogoths, evident by the Senate in 498 managing to install Symmachus as Pope despite both Theodoric of Italy and Emperor Anastasius supporting another candidate, Laurentius. 140. Exactly when the Senate disappeared is unclear, but the institution is known to have survived at least into the 6th century, inasmuch as gifts from the Senate were received by Emperor Tiberius II in 578 and 580. The traditional Senate building, Curia Julia, was rebuilt into a church under Pope Honorius I in 630, probably with permission from the Eastern Emperor, Heraclius. 141. Nomenclature. Marcellinus Comes, a 6th century Eastern Roman historian and a courtier of Justinian I, mentions the Western Roman Empire in his chronicle, which primarily covers the Eastern Roman Empire from 379 to 534. In the chronicle, it is clear that Marcellinus made a clear divide between East and West, with mentions of a geographical East, Oriens, and West, Occidens, and of an imperial East, Orientale Imperium and Orientale Respublica, and an imperial West, Occidentale Imperium, Occidentale Regnum, Occidentalis Respublica, Hesperium Regnum, Hesperium Imperium and Principatum Occidentis. Furthermore, Marcellinus specifically designates some emperors and consuls as being Eastern, Orientalibus Principibus and Orientalium Consulum respectively. 142. The term Hesperium Imperium, translating to Western Empire, has sometimes been applied to the Western Roman Empire by modern historians as well. 143. Though Marcellinus does not refer to the empire as a whole after 395, only to its separate parts, he clearly identifies the term Roman as applying to the empire as a whole. When using terms such as us, our generals, and our emperor, Marcellinus distinguished both divisions of the empire from outside foes such as the Sasanian Persians and the Huns. 142. This view is consistent with the view that contemporary Romans of the 4th and 5th centuries continued to consider the empire as a single unit, although more often than not with two rulers instead of one. 90. The first time the empire was divided geographically was during the reign of Diocletian, but there was precedent for multiple emperors. Before Diocletian and the Tetrarchy, there had been a number of periods where there were co-emperors, such as with Caracalla and Getae in 210–211, who inherited the imperial throne from their father Septimius Severus, but Caracalla ruled alone after the murder of his brother. 144. Attempted restorations of a Western court. Maps of the Agarchids within the Roman Empire in 600 AD. The Agarchids of Ravenna, left, and Africa, right, were established by the Eastern Empire to better administer the reconquered Western territories. The positions of Eastern and Western Augustus, established under Emperor Diocletian in 286 as the Tetrarchy, had been abolished by Emperor Zeno in 480 following the loss of direct control over the Western territories. Declaring himself the sole Augustus, Zeno only exercised true control over the largely intact Eastern Empire and over Italy as the nominal overlord of Odoacer. 88. The reconquests under Justinian I would bring back large formerly Western Roman territories into imperial control, and with them the empire would begin to face the same problems it had faced under previous periods prior to the Tetrarchy, whence had been only one ruler. Shortly after the reconquest of North Africa, a usurper, Stopses, appeared in the province, though he was quickly defeated. 145. As such, the idea of dividing the empire into two courts out of administrative necessity would see a limited revival during the period that the Eastern Empire controlled large parts of the former West, both by courtiers in the East and enemies in the West. 146, 147. The earliest attempt at crowning a new Western emperor after the abolition of the title occurred already during the Gothic Wars under Justinian. Belisarius, an accomplished general who had already successfully campaigned to restore Roman control over North Africa and large parts of Italy, including Rome itself, usurped the position of Western Roman Emperor by the Ostrogoths during his siege of Ravenna, the Ostrogothic, and previously Western Roman, capital, in 540. The Ostrogoths, desperate to avoid losing the control of Italy, offered the title and their fealty to Belisarius as Western Augustus. Justinian had expected to rule over a restored Roman Empire alone, with the Codex Justinianus explicitly designating the new Praetorian Prefect of Africa as the subject of Justinian in Constantinople. 148. Belisarius, loyal to Justinian, feigned acceptance of the title to enter the city, whereupon he immediately relinquished it. Despite Belisarius relinquishing the title, the offer had made Justinian suspicious, and Belisarius was ordered to return east. 146, at the end of Emperor Tiberius II's reign. In 582, the Eastern Roman Empire retained control over relatively large parts of the regions reconquered under Justinian. Tiberius chose two Caesars, the general Maurice and the governor Germanus, and married his two daughters to them. Germanus had clear connections to few western provinces, and Maurice to the eastern provinces. It is possible that Tiberius was planning to divide the empire into western and eastern administrative units once more. 147, if so, the plan was never realized. At the death of Tiberius, Maurice inherited the entire empire as Germanus had refused the throne. Maurice established a new type of administrative unit, the Egarchate, and organized the remaining western territories under his control into the Egarchate of Ravenna and the Egarchate of Africa. 149, later claims to the imperial title in the west. In addition to remaining as a concept for an administrative unit in the remaining empire, the ideal of the Roman Empire as a mighty Christian empire with a single ruler further continued to appeal to many powerful rulers in Western Europe. With the papal coronation of Charlemagne as Emperor of the Romans in 800 AD, his realm was explicitly proclaimed as a restoration of the Roman Empire in Western Europe under the concept of Translatio Imperator. Though the Carolingian Empire collapsed in 888 and Berengar, the last emperor claiming succession from Charlemagne, died in 924, the concept of a papacy and Germanic-based Roman Empire in the West would resurface in the form of the Holy Roman Empire in 962. The Holy Roman Emperors would uphold the notion that they had inherited the supreme power and prestige of the Roman Emperors of old until the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire in 1806. 150, Charlemagne, and the subsequent Holy Roman Emperors, were not, and did not claim to be, rulers of our restored Western Roman Empire. Pope Leo III and contemporary historians were fully aware of that the notion of a separate Western court had been abolished over 3 centuries prior and considered the Roman Empire to be one and indivisible. The ruler of the Roman Empire at the time of Charlemagne's coronation was Irene of Athens, the mother of Emperor Constantine VI, who she had deposed. Leo II considered Irene to be a usurper and illegitimate to rule due to her gender, and as such considered the imperial throne to be vacant. Thus, Charlemagne was not crowned as the ruler of the Western Roman. Demerarius of Frankish King Charlemagne, who was crowned as Carolus Imperator Augustus in the year 800, by Pope Leo III due to, and in opposition to, the Roman Empire in the East being ruled by Irene, a woman. His coronation was strongly opposed by the Eastern Empire. Empire and successor to Romulus Augustulus, but rather as the successor of Constantine VI and as sole Roman Emperor. Irene was deposed and replaced by Emperor Nicephorus soon after, and the Eastern Empire refused to recognize the imperial title of Charlemagne. Following several was in the 810s Emperor Michael Irene gave eventually recognized Charlemagne as an emperor, but as the slightly humiliating emperor of the Franks rather than Roman emperor, a title he reserved for himself. 128, for centuries to come. The revived Western Court and the Eastern Court, in direct succession to the Roman emperors of old, would make competing claims to be rulers of the whole Roman Empire. With the Eastern Empire terming the Holy Roman Empire as an empire of the Franks, the term Empire of the Greeks was popularized in the Frankish court as a way to refer to the empire centered in Constantinople. 151. Following the end of the Eastern Roman Empire after the fall of Constantinople in 1453 and the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire in 1806, the title of emperor became widespread among European monarchs. The Austrian Empire laid claim to be the heir of the Holy Roman Empire as Austria's Habsburgs attempted to unite Germany under the rule. 152. The German Empire, established in 1871, also claimed to be successor of Rome through the lineage